Folks, I am terribly excited because she was first a first lady, then a senator, then Secretary of State, and I would have bet anything the next president of the United States. Please welcome Hillary Rodham Clinton. Thank you so much
Stephen, it's good
to have
to
you
see
here.
you.
It's good to see you. It's an honor to
thanks.
have you here.
Thanks.
You have a new book. It's called What Happened? And I don't know how else to start this interview other than saying, what happened? What happened?
Well, that's the question I try to answer.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was the question I asked myself starting on election night. Mm-hmm. And I started...
What time on election night?
Well, as I write in the book, midnight.
Yeah.
Midnight.
I remember.
The dark time of the soul, midnight.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to not be midnight soon.
Yeah, right. And so I was asking it like you just said, what happened, you know? And I figured maybe I'd better try to find out and figure it out. So that's why I dove into this book. It was very painful and difficult, but at the end, I really feel like I've done my very best to lay out what happened so that it doesn't happen again. I mean, that's my primary goal here, is so that it doesn't happen again.
A lot of people have said, "Oh, boy, I wish Hillary Clinton would just go away."
Yeah.
Just go away.
Well, you know, if they'd take up a collection and send me somewhere really nice,
really,
I might consider it. But
yeah,
you know,
Obama's on David Geffen's yacht a lot. You could go with him.
Well, you know, I am not going anywhere.
Well, I'm glad you're not. I agree. At first, I could understand some of those calls. People saying, like, well, the Republicans are tearing themselves apart. Don't give them, you know, someone to rally around in opposition to, because you were a convenient figure for them to unite against. But I actually do not think that's how what is happening to our government is going to be stopped. I think it's people who are willing to be civically engaged and believe in the promises of the progress of the last 50 years that will save this country. So thank you so much for not going away.
Absolutely, completely.
But wait a second, it must not have been easy.
No.
It must not have been easy to write this book.
It wasn't easy. I mean, it was painful. It was horrible reliving it and, you know, being as candid, open as I could be about the mistakes I made and talking about those, but also trying to come to grips, as I write in the book, about everything from, you know, sexism and misogyny to voter suppression, to the unusual behavior of the former director of the FBI and the Russians. And the Russians. And you have been sounding the alarm about this because I believe so strongly that they think they succeeded in messing with our democracy, and I just can't abide that. So,
do you think they succeeded in messing with
yes,
our democracy?
I do. Because
to what degree? Like influencing the vote or influencing opinion?
Influencing voters, and therefore influencing opinion, I think is becoming clearer and clearer. I don't know what the congressional investigations, and I don't know what the special counsel investigation are going to find. I'm going to wait for that. But I don't think anybody can, with a straight face, say that the Russians did not set out to influence our election, and they did so. This latest revelation about the way they bought ads on Facebook and targeted them, we're going to find out a lot more, Stephen, and And I am saying as clearly as I can, I feel like I'm a bit of a, Paula Revere. I'm trying to sound the alarm about this. Is that you've got to understand what Putin's strategy is. He really doesn't like democracy. He thinks it's an inconvenient, messy process. And he doesn't like us. And he wants to destabilize our country, sow doubt about our democracy. I mean, these latest revelations where you had Russians pretending to be Americans, so you had fake Americans with fake news and fake stories and fake demonstrations. That wasn't just because he's bored and has nothing to do. He wants to undermine how we see each other, how we respect each other, how we support our institutions and our society. So I think that they believe they had a good outing in 2016, and I think they will be back in 2018 and 2020 unless we stop them.
Now, you mentioned that Putin doesn't like democracy and he doesn't like America. Part of the speculation is that he specifically doesn't like you. Do you think this was personal on a certain level?
I think it was mostly about the role I played as Secretary of State, which he did morph into a grudge against me, because I would say things like, the Russian people deserve free and fair elections. They deserve to have a democracy.
Questioning the legitimacy of his election in 2011.
The parliamentary elections,
Right,
that's
yes.
right. And so our intelligence community and others have said that he did have a personal grudge against me. I don't take it personally. I think it's part of his worldview, which is all tied up with his anger, his disappointment in the collapse of the Soviet Union, and his feeling that we're his #1 rival. He wants to really undermine the European-American alliance. And so I see it as, I was doing my job. I was honored to do my job, to stand up and speak out on behalf of American values and our democracy. And partly because I'm a woman, which does seem to get him a bit agitated. And he actually has said that, some things about that.
Did he ever say anything to you personally that demonstrated his
Well,
misogyny?
he demonstrated, as I write in the book, there's an expression, we certainly know it in New York, called manspreading.
Yes.
And every time I met with him, it would be, okay, the whole deal. And so I'd go to meetings with him. One in particular, we were in his dacha outside of Moscow, and the press comes in, and he just berates America about one of the many things that annoys him about us. And then the press leaves, and I've got 4 or 5 things we're trying to deal with him and Russia on. And I always came to my meetings with him trying to find something that I could actually engage him about. So we went through, the economy and human rights and all these other things that are critically important. And he was, as President Obama once said, like the bored guy in the back of the room. He couldn't care less. Then I said, I am really pleased to hear that you care about wildlife conservation and that you are trying to save species in Russia, like Siberian tigers and polar bears. Then he came alive, and then we had an interesting conversation. So
I wrestle polar bears.
Yeah, I wrestle. No, he said to me. So he said, "Come with me." He takes me down the stairs, down this corridor, into the door. All of his security guys are jumping up because we weren't expected. Into this inner sanctum with this huge desk and the biggest map of Russia I think exists. And he started telling me he's going here to tag polar bears. And then he says to me, "Would your husband like to come?" And I said, "Well, I'll ask him, but if he's busy, I'll go."
Well, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, Secretary Clinton and I just might break out the Chardonnay.